For the bulk of this episode, I'll be referencing the very first WEW DVD set, a collection of matches and segments from their first 3 pay-per-views in 2002. It's about 4 hours of material on 2 double-sided discs, so it gives you a pretty good idea of what the company was all about. Which is good, because after watching these, I'm never making that mistake again. I messed up. What was I thinking? How stupid could I be to willingly watch more of what I once described as pure, unadulterated, soft-serve shit? Bad wrestling, bad commentary, bad production, just overall bad vibes? A show that's so cringy and dated and misogynistic it makes me want to pull out each of my beard hairs one at a time. All this suffering for a video that may very well get taken down despite my best efforts to try and get around the footage I'm using. Oh yeah, sign me up for more of that, please. So yeah, Women's Extreme Wrestling, an all-women's league based out of Philadelphia that ran from 2002 to 2008. At a time when most mainstream women's wrestling in America was still boiled down to its pervy essence, WEW capitalized on that craze to make a world all their own. Eschewing any kind of consistent touring schedule, the company mostly banked on the success of their pay-per-views and DVD sales for income. And boy, do they know how to produce content. They made tons of volumes of their product, all of which is still for sale online to this day, on DVD and in digital form. And if you don't believe me, look at their website, wextramew.com. That's how it's supposed to read, right? Wextramew. To find out just how much WEW had evolved from their first few shows, I chose to skip the second set of DVDs and move right on to volumes 9 through 12. It looks promising enough, the cover's got a good sampling of some of the better talent you'll see in it, but behind the glossy packaging is a show that honestly seems to have a hard time figuring out what it wants to be. Does it want to be a boobular boob fest for horny teens? Does it want to be a place for wrestling fans to watch legitimate women's wrestling? Can it really handle both at once? We're about to find out as we begin the first disc, and oh fuck me!
Hey everybody, and welcome! I guess we're on pay-per-view!
There's the professionalism I came here to see. The first 2 discs are once again hosted by Eric Gargiulo, the voice of WEW and for a time CZW. And don't worry, he and Jeffrey J. James are still as god-awful as ever.
Look at her cinching in with that headlock.
Maybe she's gonna be with Davey May later. Look, she's already got the knee pads on, Eric.
And imagine if a slut like Christy Kiss won the WEW Championship. You have to fumigate that belt for weeks. Look at that.
I don't want to see that.
Wait a minute. The only kind of a cameraman that would take that kind of a shot would be a gay cameraman, Jeff.
Hear that? Somebody that's in the fatties there. Well, you know you like working the dildo, Gargiulo.
Enough.
But he's not alone. Joining him in this tiny booth is America's hardcore icon herself, G.I.Ho.
Eric, I can't seem to find it.
What? The tape? The tape's that? What are you talking about?
The tape.
Hey! What are you implying?
Picture a really cheesy, low-budget, no-frills porno. Think of that stereotype of the bad acting you see whenever porn's made fun of in popular culture. Now take that, dumb it down by half, put gobs of peanut butter in your ears, and fire ants down your shorts. That would still be more entertaining than this. Gargiulo's commentary at ringside's bad enough, and we'll certainly get to that, but man, these little skits were hard to get through. These two have no chemistry, no acting chops, and it's all very, what's the word, rapey? On both sides?
I mean, I just need it, just before. I mean, I only have, 3 days to live.
Come on, let me out of here. Get that thing away from me. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
I was giving you CPR. I noticed you were choking on a banana.
I just can't imagine why wrestling has the reputation that it does. Every time something like this happened on the DVDs, I try to put myself in the position of the target demographic, basically my awkward, horny teenage self. Would I have found this entertaining? Would I have been turned on by all the innuendo? Would I have aspired to be as cool and charming as Eric Gargiulo? The answer to all these questions is an emphatic no.
Eric, you want to wrestle?
Wait!
Huh?
What are you...
He tries to act like a player and an awkward, nervous dork in the same segments. Like a dog chasing a car, he doesn't know what to do once he catches it. Every time I watch these scenes, I feel like my skin wants to leave my body. But as bad as these scenes are, they're nothing compared to the desperate horndoggery on display by these two studs in the bonus content of the set, as they do their best Howard Stern impressions, which turn out to be the worst Howard Stern impressions.
Thank you for doing the show. You simply have a dynamite butt. Do you hear that a lot? What do you guys do? Do you guys like give each other massages and stuff? Would you please tell me your favorite position while having sex? Do you like guys too? Every ass is better than the first. I'm amazed.
My pants are getting a little tight.
All right, charming, charming.
Is all this witty banter meant to turn us on or make us question every interaction we ever had with a girl in high school? That, by the way, is in no way autobiographical. Every piece of bonus material in this set is uncut and uncensored, by which I mean totally unedited. They kept the countdowns in, for God's sake.
You okay?
Yeah, in 5, 4, 3.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you come in.
Gargiulo and Ho take us through the supposed best of collection, beginning with the Stairway to Ecstasy match, aka Dildo on a Pole. Terra Titanium comes out first to cut a promo, which you can't hear because the acoustics in the ECW arena suck, the announcers won't shut up, and something else about this segment that's kinda off-putting.
She loves Paige. So she certainly is unorthodox, I'll tell you that.
Oh yes, the what chants are still relatively novel at this time. Hey Steve Austin, thanks for ruining wrestling crowds for more than a decade! To put it mildly, it's a very bad match. It's almost as if the women have no control of their bodies when they're on offense. You know it's bad when one of the guys from Atlas Security has to help you set up a table and you still have a hard time with it.
The security guy's helping her out.
I think he's repaying her for an earlier favor, if you know what I'm saying.
No, I know what you're saying.
Chrissy Kiss slams Terra into the table, but it doesn't break as Chrissy claims her prize. Then she's immediately beaten with it and repeatedly violated with it in the ring. Yes sir, you'll only find this kind of action on pay-per-view. Bless it. We leap ahead 7 months to a show in Dover, Delaware, where we get a short and clumsy brawl between Annie Social and Missy the hardcore schoolgirl that ends when they calmly make their way to the back. Whee! We then jump to a different show in Dover in early 2003, an evening gown match between Pussy Willow, best known as one of the Godfather's hoes who held the hardcore title for about 10 seconds, and George, better known as Gorgeous George in WCW. But instead of coming out to the ring with Randy Savage, she's now accompanied by the Smoke. Yes, the commissioner of WEW has come back and looks just as good as that version of The Rock you made on Fire Pro in about 5 minutes. Also, what are those? Pussy Willow gets on the mic and says that she is, in her words, WW's hot, totally sexy woman. Well, who am I to argue? This alleged match is pure insanity. There's a cacophony of noise as music blares and the female announce team scream over each other. George pops out of her dress within seconds. There are some very odd collisions. Then Pussy Willow throws a really weak punch at the ref for no reason. A sexy cop shows up and handcuffs her. Suddenly there's a referee fight. Oh my God, Smoke, what are you doing? Then finally, George wins. Pussy Willow's carried out by her male companion. The cop doesn't know how to get the handcuffs off the bottom rope. End scene. What the hell did I just watch? If you had 1,000 monkeys on 1,000 typewriters, they'd eventually be able to come up with something more coherent than that. Okay, there's more of this disc, I suppose. We jump back to Viking Hall for a sexy nurse dance, followed up with a bizarre, tongue-tastic run-in on Schoolgirl Brittany by the PWO. Then they replay the first match in WEW history, Alexis Lurie versus Amanda Storm. I already talked about this in my first Woo review. All I'll say further is that I miss Joel Gertner on commentary.
I don't miss WEW. I don't.
We go back to Dover, but to a different show than earlier, as primetime Amy Lee gets ready for her match with Riptide. Amy, who spends several agonizing minutes hurling vile insults at the crowd, is accompanied to the ring by a man named Special Ed, who does appear to have a disability. Then they call out a guy in the crowd named Lucky, who also appears to have a disability. I don't like where this is going.
So what? What is there a parking space for anyway? It's not like the handicapped can drive. He's a crippled man. That's Special Ed.
Yes, and that crippled man put himself in the ring.
A film starring a wrestler inspires cripple fight. A cripple fight happens in a wrestling ring. Things have truly come full circle, folks. Also, what the fuck, women's extreme wrestling? Oh, and I suppose there was an actual match after whatever trashy shit that was, and it was also not great. Amy Lee swings weapons like how I used to swing a bat when I played t-ball in first grade. They spend forever fighting amongst the bar patrons, and finally the match is thrown out entirely. People paid to see this. Another match revisited from the first DVD set, a hardcore bra and panties match between Tara and Candy. A shitty, sloppy match that includes silly string, handcuffs, a cookie sheet, a baseball bat, and the match ending when the heel tries to be sneaky by putting a piece of clothing back on, only for it to do absolutely nothing for her. Up next, our old pal Davey May takes on Cinnamon. If Davey wins, he gets 5 minutes alone with her. But if Cinnamon wins, she gets to show everyone her boobs. Empowering! The match isn't terrible, but they both need work. It's a little too technical for a match with these kind of stakes, and they try and get really clever with roll-ups and submissions when they have a hard enough time with fundamentals. Suddenly, Cinnamon just, well...
Oh! She's going nuts! There she goes! That other personality, Jeff! She's going out of her mind! She's having an attack here!
When in doubt, unlock crass exaggeration of bipolar disorder! You gotta love seeing the woman who just had a kayfabe meltdown in the ring suddenly have the composure to fuck up her convoluted finishing move twice. The final match on Disc 1, oh my god, we're still on Disc 1?! Actually opens up to a scene of G.I. Ho tied up in the ring. No context from Gargiulo of how he got there? Oh no, I'm sorry, he's busy trying to force her onto his dick. Again, what the fuck, Women's Extreme Wrestling? Anyway, it's a battle royal for G.I. Ho's world title because of course she's their champion. It goes about as well as you might expect. We're down to Ho and Amanda Storm when the lights cut out and we get another PWO appearance. The group and the newly joined Chrissy Kiss beat down on G.I. Ho, and you don't get a resolution because the DVD just stops right there. Good lord, was this recorded off the pay-per-view feed and they just went over their time? We can finally move on to the next disc, all about G.I. Ho herself. That's right, folks, the shittiest wrestler and shittiest actor in WEW gets her own best of pay-per-view, complete with more brain-melting scenes with her and Gargiulo. What on earth have we done to deserve this? We revisit her tables match against Lady Storm on the second ever show, which turns out was the first ever women's tables match, beating WWE by about 8 years. Good for them. Up next, her first encounter with Amanda Storm, who after watching all this, I'm convinced deserves a medal for being able to carry Ho to a couple of passable matches.
G.I. Ho! You Barbie fucking bimbo!
The first one on this disc is cursed though. The audio is mixed all wrong, so you can just barely hear the shitty commentary, but you can hear Amanda calling spots. Then the match just cuts away mid-move to go to the next terrible scene with Ho and Gargiulo. Why do they do this? In the next encounter, Ms. Ho defends her title against Chrissy Kiss, featuring more bad editing and brawling throughout the arena. Our heroine wins. Then suddenly...
What the The nice guy! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What's going on?
Nice guys. Wrong kind of hat. So now we finally understand just why that battle royal on the last disc began with G.I. Ho tied up. But if you put these moments in order, that means Chrissy Kiss lost her title match, went to the back, joined the PWO as the battle royal was going on, then came back into the battle royal to win the championship. That's actually pretty smart, really. But the belt was vacated soon after, so at the next show in Miami, Amanda Storm and G.I. Ho faced off again for the vacant title in a pole match. Hey, at least the belt's up there this time. Dig the energy of special guest ring announcer, Missy Hyatt.
Coming to the ring, first, Amanda Storm.
And on top of that, Bill Alfonso was the surprise guest referee. He gets KO'd by Storm partway through the match, but is A-OK after a stripper revives him. The man could no longer call it right down the middle, daddy, screwing over Storm in retaliation to allow Ho to regain the title. Unfortunately, the quality of this collection peaks here. Her rematch with Lady Storm's another ugly bar brawl in Delaware, the best part being when G.I. tries to spray Lady in the face with the soda dispenser, not realizing they aren't meant to shoot out like a fire hose. Then after the match, the smoke came back with the sound guy and they beat the shit out of that poor woman.
Listen, for a horny like me, you could wear a bucket and you'd get me off.
Wait, what? Did you skip the word guy after horny and then confuse a barrel for a bucket?
For a horny like me, you could wear a bucket and you'd get me off.
The second disc concludes with the battle against Dawn May, and it's so obvious that Amanda Storm was the key to any of G.I. Ho's competence in the ring. After some blatant May family interference, Ty Killer Weed and the Psycho Bitch clean house, allowing Ho to win yet again. Up next, a pair of pay-per-views that were taped in Fort Lauderdale, Florida and released the first week of 2004. Up first, the show called Big Pimpin' Booty Kicks Butt, or as Gargiulo says,
Big Pimpin' Booty! Big Pimpin' Kicks Booty Butt!
The Fort Lauderdale shows took place 7 months after the last Delaware show, and by this point there seems to be a shift in how WEW is doing business. Instead of running once every month or so, the company changed their schedule to run once every 3 months, taping several pay-per-views in advance. The production, though getting better in some ways, still lagged way behind in others, and though they were still selling sex, we begin to see more of a focus on the more credible wrestlers. Watching these shows in their full form, you can begin to see a level of competency that is, on average, much higher than it was when the company began, which surprised the hell out of me. That being said, the bar was still ridiculously low. There was so much opening shtick with Gargiulo, ECW alum and new general manager Francine, her plucky young assistant SoCal Val, and others, we had to wait 23 minutes for the first match. In her first act as GM, Fran declared the title vacant once again, then announced a battle royal where the final two ladies would fight for the championship later. In some ways there was less raunchy stuff than before, especially in the ring, but in other places it was just as bad, if not worse. Take for instance their Native American character, Navajo, or Nurse T and Nurse A, or these little scenes between matches featuring supposed WEW applicants, which are just brief softcore clips of bikini ladies who have nothing to do with the company, where the footage is cut off before anything really naughty happens.
Well, you got me really more. What a tag team!
Boobs. Get ready, folks, because Eazy-E's doing commentary solo for both shows being taped back-to-back. Though Jeffrey J. James isn't around, Gargiulo has enough terrible, racist, and sexist one-liners to make up for it.
I wonder if she's gonna start crying when she sees the trash in the middle of the ring. I'm not a big fan of Chrissy Vane. She's got too much clothes on. Show me some interest, sweetheart. It's breeding season in the May family. She's a sore loser, just like her ancestors who cry about losing the land. Send her home in one of those little sushi containers.
But when Eric isn't berating the women for not putting out enough, or for putting out too much, he's dropping classic wrestling references that they're going out of style. Even he doesn't know what vibe he wants to convey anymore.
I mean, who taught her how to wrestle? Mr. Wrestling 2? A move made famous here in the state of Florida by Mike Rotundo, similar to veteran wrestler Mark Marrow.
Mark Marrow's really the first guy you could think of when you saw the Victory Roll? Did you just finish watching the XWF DVDs or something? I said the overall quality of wrestling was getting better, but I didn't say it was necessarily good. Here in this hair versus hair match between Chrissy Vane and Jenny Taylor, which is kind of a pun, we almost get a broken neck on our hands before it ends in the worst schoolgirl I've ever seen. Jenny takes it surprisingly well. Maybe it's because when she comes back for the Battle Royal later on, her hair is totally fine again. In that Battle Royal, Pussy Willow and Ty Weird are the final two standing, meaning they'll fight for the world title on the next show beginning right now. It's PWO's Hot Body Stick-Up. But wait a minute, the PWO are nowhere near this show. Simply Luscious beat Sumi Sakai in an I Quit match, and even though the action was fine, it seemed to stop being an I Quit match from the opening bell, with pinfalls aplenty. We get the Be My Bitch match I talked about briefly in my last review. When I watch it, it's actually not a bad intergender match, well except for this moment where Mike Mannix bumps for nothing. A hardcore match between Lexi Fife and Didi Venturi spills to the outside and ends up in a swimming pool. The best part of this being that Gargiulo has to be told what's happening outside the venue because he has no monitor.
And do we have a winner yet?
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the match, Lexi Fife.
Well, there you go.
Though the wrestling is okay for the most part, the fans couldn't give less of a shit by this point and are pretty quiet. Taping two pay-per-view length shows back-to-back, standing room only, is already pretty dicey to begin with. Also, I get the feeling that these guys in attendance were hoping for stuff to be more sexy and less wrestly. Even Gargiulo's lost his pet by this point. Normally he'd freak out over the sight of someone like Cassidy beating a guy much larger than her, but he practically sleeps through it.
Turn out the lights. That party's over.
We've finally dragged our way to the main event, Pussy Willow versus Ty Killer Weed for the vacant world title. Willow opens things up by once again hitting the referee before the bell rings, but nothing happens to her and we move on. Okay, the fans are tired, Eric is tired, I'm tired, this is just sad. Finally, Ty hits a top rope cross body, officially the best move of the match, to win. Out comes the rest of the locker room to celebrate, and Eric, don't you dare!
Reminds me of Starrcade 83, when Rick Steamboat and Angelo Mosca held Ric Flair.
Of course you did. Okay, anything else you want to say to balance things out?
Man, I would love to bang those nurses. On that note, we'll see you next time.
I hate this. I tried, folks. I really tried to keep an open mind about things, hoping that WEW would begin to turn a corner. But this just reminds me that that era is way, way off. Whether you came for the wrestling or you came for the boobs, you probably walked away from these shows disappointed you didn't get what you wanted. By the end of this collection, the average in-ring quality drastically improves, but it still has a long way to go. I know there always were capable wrestlers throughout the Fed's history, but you can tell that credibility and match quality was never the priority here, at least not at this stage of the game. By the time we get to Fort Lauderdale, we're seeing more than one or two veterans out there at a time and generally exceeding expectations, so that's gotta be worth something. Some might look at the more shocking things in this DVD set and try and compare it to what South Park does. You know, they go there. Nothing's off limits. They try to offend everybody equally. But at least when South Park does that sort of stuff, it's part of a larger message, or they're trying to make a point. This is just shock for the sake of shock. Combine that with the derogatory and sexually frustrated commentary throughout, and it gets more maddening the more you watch it. Who is this for? Do they even know?
We have a low budget here at WWE.
No shit? I'm serious now, okay? There is no way you will ever catch me reviewing this crap for the channel again. Never, ever, ever. I'll buy one for later.
Woo! 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 Woo!